Have you seen signs of armadillos digging in your yard? Well, if you have, then that's usually a sign that there's something a little more serious going on in the soil, and that is grubs. If armadillos are digging in your yard, they're digging for a food source. Most likely it's grubs, however, it could be earthworms and other beneficial insects. But I'm going to talk about ways that you can look for grubs and try to identify if it's grub damage or something more serious. So let's get into it. So let's talk about the grub life cycle first of all. Adult May-June beetles may emerge between April and June to mate and lay eggs. The grubs hatch and feed on the grass roots. Grubs overwinter deep in the soil, then move toward the surface in the spring. So the way that you can tell if you have grub damage is they're actually feeding on the grass roots, which will in turn make the grass turn brown, if not die. Now, this is what to look for: grub damage. What are you looking for? So it looks like a drought. It mimics drought. Obviously, if you have moles or armadillos digging in your yard, then they're digging for a food source, which is most likely grubs. Now, you can't see them unless you cut or peel back the grass. And that's what I want to talk to next. So you want to be very careful because your damaged side can sort of act like it's new side. So if you know with new side, you need to be really careful with that. So make sure you're watering to try to encourage the root system. So how do you look for the grubs? You cut a 1-foot square sample, 3 inches deep, then you fold back that sample. And then you want to examine the soil for grubs. Now, if you do have a significant grub problem, you're going to see grubs in that little 1-foot square sample. If you're not seeing any grubs, that doesn't mean that you don't have grubs. It just means you may want to take another sample somewhere else. So I was pretty careless right here. I didn't use a knife, but you really want to just kind of be careful. Use a pocket knife and cut a 1-foot square sample. But if you do have grub damage, the roots of the grass are already going to be weakened. So if you can just grab a handful of it and peel it back like that, then chances are there have been grubs in those areas. I didn't see any in that one little handful that I pulled up, but as you can see, armadillos have been digging in this yard, and they're just looking for a food source. So next, I want to talk about the timing of control. The best treatment window is midsummer to early fall. So where I live in Alabama, that's late July through October. Smaller grubs are easier to kill than the larger ones. Most larvae have hatched and are still small during this time period. Now, spring treatments can still work, but they aren't as effective as the treatments that you can do in late July to October. Now, the product that I like to use is called Dilox. It's a granular insecticide and is specifically made for grubs. It's a granular product. It's actually more flaky than granular, very light. So you make sure you want to water this in after you perform a treatment with this, but just pour it in a hand spreader or a small push spreader and just apply it to your lawn. Now, I have a few application tips to give you. You want to water your lawn before treatment if the soil is really dry. And historically, we have really dry falls here, so it's going to be dry. Watering brings the grubs closer to the surface, and you want to read the label of whatever product you're working with and then water in the insecticide after you have applied it if the label says to. Now, you do want to clarify to your customers, if you're doing this for a customer, that this is not guaranteed to get rid of the armadillos, okay? This is a grub treatment. It is only guaranteed to get rid of the grubs. So if they called you asking you to get rid of their armadillos, make sure they know this is not guaranteed. The armadillos can stick around for a long time just sniffing out the dead grubs. Also, they could just be sniffing out earthworms, scorpions, just other insects that are in the soil. So make sure they know that they're not paying for an armadillo service. They're paying to control the grubs in the lawn, which the grubs are the thing that's actually causing the damage. They're causing the lawn to look drought stressed and brown. And of course, the grubs are feeding on the root system of the grass, so it's weakening the grass. So the grubs are the deeper issue here. That's the problem that they want to get rid of. If they're really worried about the armadillos, they can, set traps or call some type of critter control companies out there that specialize in trapping and getting rid of armadillos and moles and things like that.